And I could be telling you about through shaft dampers, about the lack of a nitrogen charged IFP piston, which is why this shock just tracks the ground so well, so sensitively. But it's just so good. This bike just totally rips.
My name's GuyKestv. I've been a professional bike and kit tester for nearly 25 years. And today, the bike I'm testing is Trek's top of the range /9.9 X01 Enduro Racer, which creates a problem because obviously it's locked down, so I can't go to the Alps, I can't go to big bike parks, and it's icy as hell, like seriously sketchy. But I need to get the review done, so what I thought we'd give a go is a Doorstep Enduro. So taking in all my favourite local descents, literally within like 5 miles of home, that I use for testing the bikes, and kind of just, it's going to be super rapid fire, super short, going to really need to keep my wits about me, and obviously not going to get big mountain vistas, but hopefully this will work. And before you ask, I'm not going to tell you where these trails are, and if you do know where these trails are, then lucky for you, but don't go sharing it.
The only trouble with that is this Trek Slash, the one thing it loves, and that's absolute flat out speed, even when the trails are frozen and icy, and there's not actually a huge amount of vertical to go at here. But then, no surprise that this bike loves going fast. Trek have always made really good high-speed bikes. Current world champion Reece Wilson is on a Trek. That same OCLV carbon tech, two lads creating a super stiff straight shot chassis. I mean, these sections are short enough anyway, but they're over even faster on this Slash. It's ridiculous the speed this bike has. You flick that lockout switch over, or even put it into plus mode to firm up the through shaft shock. It's impressively efficient on these transition climbs. I rode it 35k cross country last night, the sticky front tyre on, no problem whatsoever. You know, as much as it loved smashing the big descents, still a really well behaved trail bike too. So Trek Remedy, one of the first 29er wheeled enduro bikes, and massively successful in EWS when it first started, thanks to Tracy Mosley and others. So it comes from an incredible, you know, lineage for making the toughest descents. His playground. See what I did there? And there's an excellent chat with John and Dylan from Trek on the Downtime podcast, talking about the development of this bike. Radline, so icy. And basically, as they were testing the aluminium mules with, you know, their own team of test riders and their enduro pros, this is rough. The longer and slacker they made this bike, the faster and more sorted it became. So you're now, oh, this is gnarly. So you're now looking at, can't get over, 64 degree head tube, 486mm reach, and the more travel they added, the faster it got as well. So this bike's now 170mm at the front, 160 at the back, and it is so capable even on sketchiest descents. Then you've got 435mm back end, 345mm bottom bracket height, and as well as being one of the first companies to put carbon fibre into mountain bikes with their OCLV technology in the early 90s, optimum compaction, low void. Also one of the first companies to use geometry flip chips, so you still get that Mino linkage in the rocker on the slash, and that gives you half a degree of angle change and a few mils of bottom bracket change as well. While we're on the transition stage, I can fill you in on the other practical details as well. So they've gone to threaded bottom bracket from Press Fit. There's more armour all over the bike, and the big one, it's now got a storage hatch in the down tube. You also get that storage on the alloy frames as well, which again, according to that Downtime podcast interview, is one of the hardest aspects of designing the bike, as well as packaging it around that unique through shaft shock. You get ABP pivot at the back, so the rear pivot is concentric with the rear axle. Something Trek have done for ages, trying to separate braking and pedalling forces from the suspension. You've got ISCG mounts, and you get full-size bash plate top guide setup MRP on this model on every bike as standard, because while it might be surprisingly practical on the trail, you know, this is a dedicated Enduro DH race bike, and that's its real priority. So you've got super stiff frame with sorted geometry, and on this 9.9 you've also got proper top end equipment. Zeb Ultimate rock shots, fork up front. You've got Super Deluxe Ultimate rear shock, SRAM X01 full kit including carbon chain set. You've got Code RSC brakes with 200mm front rotor for max power, and you get full Bontrager finishing kit as well. So big 820mm carbon bars, oversized shaft, long reach dropper, 34.9 to keep it extra stiff, and then you get Bontrager's Line Elite carbon fibre wheels as well, with a 2-year carbon care warranty. Gotta love a frozen dry. And Bontrager SE5 and SE4 tyres. That's about the only thing I've changed around actually, is I've swapped the grips, because I don't like grips with metal end caps on them like these Bontragers had. It came with the 2.6 SE5 at the rear, and then 2.4 SE4, the less grippy tyre, at the front. So that must make sense to Trek, some of their testing, but it didn't make sense to me, so I've swapped it around to have the 2.6 on the front. And they're a proper, you know, enduro tyre, the SE4 and SE5, with the core strength reinforced carcass and a decent compound and really nice ride feel even on rocky terrain like this. But that is a relatively shallow, oh sorry, thanks so much. So for softer, slipperier conditions, probably are going to want something a bit toofier up front. But I have to say, this bike is just in the business. Sheer speed through the roughest, sketchiest stuff. I mean, obviously, the upside with having a fairly ramped, shallow tread is they roll pretty well for covering those miles efficiently. But especially with that SE4 on the back. But for super steep stuff like this, that 75.6 seat angle, I do find I have to slide the saddle forwards on its rails a bit and get right on the nose. But you know, change the Mino link and you can get to 76.1 if you want it steeper. And while that 345mm BB height is relatively tall, or 352 in the high setting. It does mean they can fit 175mm cranks for full leverage without any clearance issues. Right, I've just stopped for a quick pie and brew break, like all good enduro riders, and this pie caused quite a lot of interest on Instagram last night. So it's a pork and mushy pea I'm eating at the moment from Kendall's Farm Butchers, and they do online orders as well. And while I'm here, I'll do the tech talk around for this bike, because obviously there's a lot of detail to go into in between the riding, so make sure you watch that. But for you, we're going to do some more riding, because yeah, another prime location local to me. Secret. But while it lives the flat out straight line speed through the biggest nastiness, it's still manoeuvrable and precise enough to really enjoy, you know, proper new school shrouding stuff around proper carved sculpted berms. Oh, loves that stiffness. And while the suspension is really sophisticated, it's actually very forgiving and friendly to set up, especially if you use Trek's app, which is really accurate and gives properly sorted ride just from the online calculations. And I had the bike set up really well already, but that app is literally accurate to the last click, to within a couple of PSI. And they've even numbered the damping clicks, so you don't have to remember and count as you go. It's got actual digits on the dial. And you've also got that really useful fine micro adjust on that little side dial on top of the shock, which just makes it so simple to just dial exactly the low speed compression feel you want out of the shock. Obviously my local woods aren't coming anywhere near stretching it. You know, I've had it up at Stainburn, I've had it up at some other little secret locations, swapping it around with some handy enduro riders, get their feedback on it, and also talk to guys who've taken on for full-on alpine trips when lucky enough to get one in when the quarantines was lifted for a bit, and they're all giving the same feedback. Well, this bike absolutely rips. It just totally dominates straight line jank. Trek have one of the most experienced and longest running design, development and testing teams in the business. Guys like Travis Brown, Andy Shandro, John Riley, Dylan, and they have put all of that knowledge and the fact that they're never scared to try something new and different to create something truly incredible in this slash. It's just so controlled, so dialed. It really is an outstanding machine. Whether you're a world-class enduro athlete or just a mere mortal wanting to hit the trails harder and faster than ever. So what is so special about this shock? Well, as the name suggests, through shaft means that the damper shaft goes right the way through the body of the shock. It's a move they pull on some motorsport shocks. And it means that the oil's just a consistent column. There's no spring-loaded IFP changing the pressure and resistance as you work through the stroke. And the way that works is just so incredibly measured and controlled and consistent. It never feels like it's wallowing or throwing the stroke away, and yet it's so sensitive and smooth. Just the amount of control this bike gives you. It actually took me a while to get this Z fork bedded in enough so it didn't feel like that was the part of the bike that was holding it up. And this is, you know, premium 170mm travel suspension fork with incredibly precise control. So this is, without doubt, one of the flat out fastest enduro race bikes I've ever ridden. And pretty much everyone who's reviewed it has said the same. But it does it in a really unthreatening, easily accessible way. And I have absolutely loved riding this bike in pretty much every situation. Like I say, even on cross-country rides, it's impressively efficient and eager to cover those miles. What a sorted bike.
So that's the Doorstep Enduro done. Hopefully it works as a concept. I have no idea. Obviously I've got to empty the camera and see what clips I've got. So thanks for bearing with me on this experimental one. But overwhelmingly, thanks very much to Trek for supporting the video. Thanks to my Patreon supporters for pledging a small monthly amount towards the upkeep of the channel, and they get exclusive behind the scenes and extended edits as a thank you. If you really like what I'm doing on the GuyKestv TV, please consider joining them. Their names are scrolling up at the moment. Well, the $10 a month investors are anyway, but there's lower tiers as well if you just want to support on a small basis. But yeah, thanks to those guys. Thanks to you for watching. Thanks to you for subscribing. Give it a thumbs up so it gets shared more. Tell your mates about the channel. If you've got any questions, get busy in the comments below. Make sure you watch the tech talk round where I go into a bit more up close detail, and obviously you can see more of the detail on the bike itself. But for now, I've been GuyKestv on GuyKestv TV, doing my best to display the incredible speed, composure, consistency and control of this Trek Slash 9.9 on particularly sketchy local downhill trails. Thanks very much for your time.